Governor Barbour now joins us live from Jackson, Mississippi. Welcome, Governor.
Thank you, Brett, very much.
Well, you just heard that story. First, your reaction, and why so many pardons as in your last day?
Well, because this is 8 years worth of pardons. My first 4 years, I did what Mississippi governors traditionally do. The mansion is staffed by inmates from the state penitentiary, and almost all of them are murderers because the experts say they're the least likely to commit another crime if their crime was a crime of passion. So the Department of Corrections sends us who works there. I don't pick them, but governors have traditionally given them clemency, and 4 years ago I pardoned the prisoners who worked there. However, because of Katrina and some other things, we didn't look at any other pardons, so we're dealing with 8 years worth of pardons, 215, 189 of whom had been out of prison in many cases for 10 or 15 years. So we're really talking about 26 people who are incarcerated at this point, and most of them will be free very shortly, because what we did is valid. It is consistent with Mississippi's Constitution, and in fact, the Attorney General you just heard talk, when the previous Democrat governor pardoned people for which there had been no publication at all, Jim Hood didn't say a word.
Okay, Governor.
In our case, we made the effort to do the publications, and some of the newspapers ran them late.
Governor, you heard the family member who was speaking out there to the media. A former federal prosecutor, now law professor, says by giving freedom to these convicted murderers without properly notifying those families, the symbolism of this, the message it sends to the families, quote, is so insensitive and so insulting to the memory of these murder victims, it's mind-boggling. Do you regret any of that?
Well, first of all, I do regret that though the Department of Corrections sent out the notices to be published before the 30-day deadline, they didn't realize some of the newspapers would not actually run them for several days because they just run legal notices every so often. But let me just talk about the families. I understand and recognize that these families had members, friends, loved ones who were the victims of terrible crimes, sometimes killed, sometimes hard maimed. And I sympathize with the fact that this hurts them, that they lost somebody like that, and that they're not going to forget it, and some of them want vengeance. They're not happy. I not only understand that, I respect it. But what the state does and has done is we follow the Christian. Most people in Mississippi are Christians or profess to be Christians, and we believe in forgiveness and we believe in second chances. And in the case of these 5 inmates at the state penitentiary, that's what most of all this is about. 4 were murderers. They have all said they were guilty. They have served on average 20 years in the penitentiary. You know, these are not guys that, got a slap on the wrist. They have served on average 20 years, and they have worked and worked to get themselves ready to be free and to get a second chance.
But Governor,
I believe in second chances. I believe we're taught that as Christians, and that's the principle of Mississippi, to give people a second chance.
We understand that. The 5 guys we're talking about here that are really the focus, one of them sentenced to life in prison in '93 after shooting and killing his wife while she held their newborn son in her arms, turned his gun on a family friend. Another guy killed the principal of the school where he taught. Another guy was sentenced to life in prison after he fatally shot his wife in the back as recently as 2001, and another one for conspiracy, armed robbery, and murder. They worked at the mansion, as you say, but you're convinced that these guys are not dangerous?
Absolutely. The reason they work at the mansion is the experts in corrections say that people who commit a crime of passion or murder as a crime of passion are the least likely to ever commit another crime, and they are the best people to do it in a situation like this. Most all the trustees that have worked at the mansion since I've been governor were people who had committed a crime of passion, convicted of murder. I have no doubt in my mind that these men have repented, have been redeemed, have come back hard working to prepare themselves to go out into the world. I have no question in my life. When my grandchildren are over at the governor's mansion, We trust them to play with and to be looked out for by these people. If I trust them to be around my grandchildren, I think that makes a pretty plain statement, doesn't it, Brett?
It does, Governor, but the governor coming in, Governor Phil Bryant, is now looking at a possible amendment to limit executive branch pardon powers in the state. So obviously there's concern in your state about it.
Well, I think that would be a mistake. You know, we've had the executive clemency and pardoning by governors from the very first Constitution of Mississippi, the very first Constitution of the United States of America. I've done about 225 in 8 years. Ronald Reagan, my former boss and hero, did more than 400 in 8 years as President of the United States, about what Bill Clinton did, about what Gerald Ford did. Again, we believe that people who ask for forgiveness for their sins, redeem themselves, should get a second chance. And 20 years in the penitentiary is time enough to come to grips with getting to your redemption and forgiveness.
Governor Barbour, thank you very much for your time tonight. We appreciate it.